checking in once again. Hey, this week, y'all, I want to talk about failure. And I used to have a bad connotation when it came to failure. Because when I was a child, I was constantly reminded how much of a failure that I was. See, I was told that my dad was a failure, his dad was a failure, and that I was going to be the next failure. And at a very young age, when I was about 12 or 13, I started to believe that, and I started to behave differently. I started to act out. I started getting in trouble like I was just wilding out. But now that I'm older, my most recent failure, it really changed how I feel about failure. And I want to talk about when I failed my level 2 sommelier exam the first time that I took it. See, I don't really talk about this to a lot of people because it was something that I went through, and it was something that I constantly thought about, and something that made me stronger as an overall, outcome of the situation. But in 2018, y'all, I put aside the entire year just to study for this test. Now, mind you, it's people in my circle and people who I was dealing with, they was like, yo, why you doing that? Like, yo, they see me reading big books, they like, why are you doing that? And I couldn't really explain to them why. It was just my journey, and it was something that I knew that I had to do. And it was just so much negativity, but I isolated myself, and for the entire year, I studied. I would wake up, take my daughter to daycare, drop my baby moms off at work, and by 10 o'clock, I was studying. And I finished studying at about 3 o'clock. I would go to work, get off about 11, 12 o'clock at night, go to sleep, wake up, and do it all over again. I'm talking about I missed the whole entire spring. I missed the summer. I didn't care what was on TV. I didn't care about people going out. I didn't care about concerts, March Madness, playoffs, none of that. I'm in this book right now. And in August, when I went and took the test, it was right here in Atlanta, in the city. I had on my suit, I came in this room, and I just seen a bunch of people, and I felt so alone because I felt like I was the only person like myself in that room. I felt like it wasn't nobody else in there who had felony convictions. It was nobody else in there who been to prison. It was nobody else in there who was from one of the toughest projects in the country. I felt like I'm different, and I'm in here, and I kind of felt like I'm not supposed to be here. But anyway, man, I went on ahead and took the test, and I'm talking about at the end, the only way that you know if you pass or fail is if they call your name. And if they don't call your name, then you didn't pass. And I was so confident in myself, y'all. I wasn't arrogant, but I was real confident. I'm like, I done put in work. I've been coming to work 30 minutes early to study. I've been studying at home. I've been doing everything that I have to do to pass this test. And when they was calling people names, they didn't call my name. And I was so devastated, man. I had my homeboy there, he was recording it. And they ain't called my name, bro. I was I never felt that embarrassed. I felt angry. I felt stupid. I felt out of place. I was just so hurt. And all of these thoughts from my childhood started coming back to me. Started seeping in my mind you a failure. Who you fooling, bro? This ain't you. Come on, man. Who you fooling, bro? I got depressed, y'all. I was so down for a while. And it was crazy because it wasn't nobody there. It wasn't a lot of people who was yo, get back up, yo, keep going, man. Keep putting in work. It wasn't a lot of people, or at least my mind, I didn't hear those people. Because when I came back to the crib, my baby mom, she wasn't yo, I'm sorry you passed your test. Get back up, do it again. When I came back to the crib, my baby mom was yeah, I've been patient with you long enough. When are you getting out? I'm what? What? I just spent all of this time. I done had to pay for this test. I done had to pay for my books. I'm broke. And I failed, and it's just so much opposition coming to me, y'all. But after a while, man, I calmed down, and I got to thinking about it, and I'm Vino, it's 3 parts of the test. You know what I'm saying? You got to pass all 3 parts. You only failed 1 part. So you didn't fail, you just learning, bro. You got to get back up and keep going, bro. You too much invested in this. Your name Vino. You can do this. Get back up. So I'm like, yo, I look up the criteria. Yo, you had to wait 90 days. You had to wait 3 months before you can register to take this test again. And I'm like, yo, you ain't got no money to do that. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. And I don't care where the test is at. I don't care if the test is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Anchorage, Alaska. It could be in Providence, Rhode Island. Like, I'm paying my money and I'm going to take this test in 90 days. I'm on the computer. I'm like, all right, where it's at? Where it's at? Guess where the test was at, y'all? Guess where the next test was at? in Detroit, Michigan. I'm like, yo, I'm going. I hadn't been to the crib since I left in 2009. It's the end of 2018. Exactly 90 days from the day that I failed. Man, I swiped my credit card. I'm like, we out. Let's go. I'm going back. You feel me? I'm going to take this test again. And instead, I got right back in the books. Instead of going to work 30 minutes early, I would go to work an hour early. You know what I'm saying? I would go have all the managers like, yo, just pour me up some wine. Like, pour it up. Like, I'm testing myself. I put the timer on. I'm like, let's go. Like, yeah, let's go. We about to take this test again. And when I went to the D, man, like, I was so terrified, man. I was so afraid, but in my heart, I'm like, yo, you have to do this. You have to do this. I don't care how many times you fail, you gonna keep taking this test until you pass it. You feel what I'm saying? Man, I went and took that test, and the part that I failed, I was so scared about it. I felt like I had failed again at the end, y'all. I felt like I had failed again. Like, I was so sick, and I had to wait so many hours before I finally got the results. And I remember being in a similar room, feeling like the same situation as last time, and I'm hearing them call people names. They calling people names, and people would be like, Ronald Johnson. Like, yeah. Man, the lady must have called my name. I was like, yes! I was like, yo, I could barely contain myself. But I was just so happy, man. I was so thankful, man. When I left that hotel, man, in downtown Detroit, on that street, man, like, I just stepped out onto the street and I screamed at the top of my lungs. Like, I was just thanking God, man. I was so happy, man. I went straight back to my hood. Like, I'm in the hood. I'm telling everybody, like, yo, I'm hyped. I'm like, you just thought I won a lottery. They're like, Vito, like, what? Like, what happened? I'm like, yo, I passed my test, yo. I'm a sommelier. Like, I'm a som now. They're like, okay, like, all right, what is that, bro? What is it? And like, you gonna make a lot of money now? I'm like, I said, bro, like, I can't even really explain it right now, man. I'm just so hyped, man. I'm just so hyped. But it really changed my thinking when it comes to failure. You see, failure is only when you stop trying. That's when you fail. When you stop trying, that's when you fail. But when you fail and you keep trying and you keep going back at it, I don't care if you get a little bit closer and you learn a little bit more. But eventually, you're going to overcome that failure, and it's going to feel so good. And I fell so in love with the process. It wasn't even about the actual taking the test and being at the finish line. It was just going through it. The discipline of being by myself, of studying. Like, yo, I'm in books, and it's like I'm traveling the world. I'm using my imagination. I'm buying all of these maps so I can know exactly where I'm at. I'm buying all of these books, and I'm just reading. I'm talking about eating up hours. I'm like, yo, it ain't enough hours in a day. I'm ready to go to sleep and get back up again so I can start back studying. And it's like that whole process is what I fell in love with. But I'm going to get back to the subject about failure. Like, you don't fail until you stop trying. Most people are paralyzed by fear. They won't even make a move. They won't even make a jump. You know what I'm saying? I learned, like, sometimes you got to jump and put your parachute on the way down. You feel what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to go into what scares you the most and just go for it. And most of the time, it's all up here. It's all up here. So if it's something that you're doing, if it's something that you want to do, if it's a journey that you're going through and you're afraid of failure, I need you to internalize that fear of failure and use it as energy and use it as a positive force to keep going hard. You understand? And when you succeed, you're going to feel like, man, it's going to feel so wonderful. So that's what I have this week about failure, man. Failure is only when you stop trying. So whatever it is that you're doing, don't give up. I don't care what people say. I don't care if it's family. I don't care if it's friends, if it's people at your job, whoever. Like, prove them wrong by showing them that you're not a failure and that you're going to fail your way to success. That's all I got for y'all.